Clear air, clean water, strong bridges, safe roads, and life-saving miracles. Engineers are innovating the solutions that will build a stronger American future. But tax changes are stifling the spark of innovation, holding back the dreamers, doers, and builders from the discoveries that will reshape our future. Tell Congress, fix the R&D tax and promote research and development. Because when we fuel the fire of innovation, we light the way to a brighter tomorrow.
Welcome to Engineering Influence, a podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies, and today we are having our third conversation with our friends over at Power Engineer about AI and emerging technologies in the engineering space. We're coming out of our fall conference that just happened in Austin, Texas, and I was really surprised at how much attention was put on AI as not just the idea of it, but it's moved on from the idea of, well, this is cool technology, how are we going to do it, to, our firm needs to implement this in some way. We need to actually take advantage of it and stay ahead of it. How do we actually do that? Our last conversation with Nathan Bingham, the Chief Digital Officer over at Power, was really focused on operationalizing AI in the firm. And we want to really dive in with that topic. And to do that, really pleased to also bring on Sean Weekly, who is a software developer at Power and helped actually the nuts and bolts side of things actually make it happen. And we want to kind of dig into some of the things that we talked about in the last episode and uncover maybe some ideas and some thoughts on really it's not just the idea of AI with engineering, but how do you actually get it to work? How do you get buy-in? And how do you really integrate it in with your firm? So Nathan and Sean, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today to talk about these issues. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So Nathan, you and I discussed kind of how Power took advantage of AI and started implementing it into the firm, kind of first through small groups and then getting buy-in over time and setting in the policies and procedures to allow people to use it in such a way where, they were cognizant of certain platforms being open source and understanding the dangers with confidential information or open source AI programs, but then also how Power kind of developed its own system, Bucky, to kind of harness it. Can you talk a little bit about, if you could kind of summarize it for our audience who might not have heard it before, kind of like how Power first recognized AI as something that they needed to take advantage of?
Yeah, thank you. So as we, as ChatGPT hit the market and folks like Sean and others in the company, they all started wondering, how do we use it? Like, how does this help Power? And as we talked about last time, we kind of immediately started, did some research and really understood some of the risks and things you might need to be concerned about using it. And at the same time as that was happening, our group, we are a bit of an R&D group, and so folks like Sean and his peers were able to, kind of dig into those nuts and bolts questions or concerns and figure out how we could use it safely, and also how we could potentially use it on our internal data in a fashion that would be beneficial to us. And so we were able to take some time kind of doing that research into it, and over time, Sean began doing some development and some kind of sample, some testing, basic coding around creating an interface, and really just start playing with it, having that time and ability to investigate how we might use it, until we got to a point to where we really had something to show leadership with regards to how we could use it beneficially around the company. So, I mean, it really started off with tinkering, if you want to put it that way, and just digging into it and learning about it.
Sean, how did you approach it? I mean, this is relatively new technology. What was your approach in saying, okay, how do I take this fairly powerful tool and break it down into something that could be Power's?
Is hitting the ball and chasing it a technical term? Because that's kind of what we
Right.
did. So as part of what I do, I'm also part of another consortium called the Substation Design Industry Consortium. And there's been several folks, several utility companies within that consortium that have also been chasing this rabbit.
Mm-hmm.
And myself and another couple of peers there kind of took it upon ourselves to figure out where does this benefit our industry. And me, coming from a software development background, software architecture background, uh, it was really as simple as, okay, let's go do some research to see, what is available from the AI company, so OpenAI in this case, or Meta or whomever, and then look at what the platform offers and where it kind of falls off the edge in regards to what we can and can't do,
Mm-hmm.
and then create a solution within those bounds.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be relatively simple to create the solution. And then once we figured out what to do, it's really just scaling it up from there to become an enterprise level solution.
What was the time scale that you were working on? I mean, how much research, from research to implementation, uh, roughly how long did that take in your estimation?
Well, so today I would say that Power with Bucky, we are in post beta.
Yeah.
So we put the solution in beta. We put a couple of dozen people using it on a day to day basis. So we're not officially in production yet, but we're going to production next year. But from start to finish, we actually started this process in end of July timeframe,
Mm-hmm.
and we were in beta with people by September.
Hmm.
And we've been testing from September to now in beta. And we've been testing multiple use cases. We kind of started off with in our head what we wanted to attempt,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a certain subset of our users that we just kind of put on the system and said, use it with
Yeah.
pretty much no driver behind that other than, flog it and see what falls off.
And Nathan, how was that test user group determined?
I think with most technology, you want to identify those who want to use it. And so, we had people reaching out as Sean was testing with it, and at the same time, we had people just using the publicly available versions, and they'd come back with, "Hey, can we do this? Can we do that?" And we channel those people towards Sean to where he could identify, well, who's really wants to be engaged with this, who's going to actually test it for us, who's going to actually take the time to make provide some valuable input here. So I think as you read and understand technology, I mean, if it's going to be successful, you got to have those people who really want to try it out. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't as much of us finding them as they found us, and we leveraged that interest to get into it and to test it with us.
How much time did it take to get buy-in from leadership? Where was leadership on this in the process? Were they bought in early on, saying, "Yeah, this is great. Kick the tires, try to get something that we can work with, and let's socialize it within the firm," or did you have to get a point where you were pre-beta, but you had a working framework that you were able to say, "Listen, this is going to work. Here's our, here's our test case. Give us a shot." I mean, how was leadership, the senior leadership of the firm, kind of with this? Is it early, or was it taking them along the ride?
So let me see how I want to answer that. The leadership knew we were doing something.
Mm-hmm.
They knew we were working with AI. To what extent? I kind of kept that a little bit to my team, that I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to develop something that I was able to felt comfortable and confident taking a solid business case to them with. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not honestly sure how much of Sean's time he was spending day in and day out on this. I can spit those words out. But he would work on it, and I'd receive updates and understand what was going on and provide that input to my leadership, our
Mm-hmm.
C-suite, and say, we're working on this. investigating these options. And as we basically got to the point to where we needed to decide if we were going to do something or not, right? If we were really going to go in on this tool, Sean can't do this on his own,
Yeah.
right? We would need additional help. We would need additional investment. It's not cheap to pay for access to these engines. And so the time came to where, Sean's pounding on my door pretty hard that, hey, I'm going to need some help with this. And so at that point, we had enough information collected, some good use cases developed to where I was able to take that to leadership. So, Sean started in this in the July timeframe. I took it to leadership with a solid business case in September to get approval to hire some additional people and to invest in it for this year. So it took a couple months to get that all developed and a solid case put together.
And Sean, give me an example of what success looked like. I guess when you actually realize that, this is something that's going to work. This is a product that actually does show value. Is there one case study or one example that sticks in your mind?
There's a few. So our first kind of stab at it, we created a system that would allow us to upload some documents, but those documents didn't matter. Upload those documents and then provide or query those documents using OpenAI and using the GPT engines. So GPT-3 is what we started with. And say, take these documents that I just fed you and summarize them or create lists and bullets or, tell me what it's about. So essentially, we took some engineering specifications around T-line, fed it to the engine, and then started asking engineering questions like, what size cable would we need for this particular situation? And the system spat it out. And we're like, oh, that's really great. And then we were using an open source library at the time. And what was cool about it was not only could we query the information and get an answer back, but we could get references to specific parts of the document, click on those references, and then open the document up and see, okay, yeah, it came from here. So, IEC, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I don't reference the specs. I'm a software guy, but you get the point.
Yeah.
The document would come up. The engineers who were testing it could see, yep, that's what I would do. And then that's where it started clicking, right? So that our engineers spend a significant amount of time poring over documentation, trying to find an excerpt from the document that references the specification that they're going to design something to. So if we can just feed that information to a system and it immediately return the data along with proof of this is where it came from, then this is valuable. This saves engineering hours. And then so if we can do that with engineering documents, what other documents can we do? What other formats and information can we do? So that's where we started looking at our proposal process. So, we create proposals for opportunities, and we create a significant amount of proposals for opportunities across the year, several thousand a year. So we surmised is that, if we're doing several thousand a year and it takes, a day to do a proposal, if you're good, and we can start generating content around the proposal creation process and cut that down to half a day or a couple of hours, what does that save us? And it's a lot. I mean, if we're talking about, maybe it takes 4 days to do a proposal at 8 hours a day, and we're paying, people $50 to $100 an hour. We're talking about $3,200 a proposal, 1,500 proposals, over $3 million a year that we spend on writing proposals. So if we cut that down to, half, that's, 1.5. If we cut it down to a quarter, we're saving, we're down to less than $1 million. That's kind of the basis of what we built our business case on. And we then went and proved that. So part of our beta was we brought our production people in who are writing proposals. We put them in front of the system and said, write some proposals,
Mhm.
or help let the system help you create proposals. And we've had great success there. It's on average, the people I've spoke to are saving at least 25%
Well,
of their time. Some of them are saving up to 50% of their time. It really depends.
that's
Um,
something.
yeah, it's a significant help just in that one business case. So we've got two business cases kind of covered here, and
Hmm.
that's querying our knowledge management platform, querying our specifications, and that saves hours of time. So, you don't have to read the whole specification. You just say, "Hey, where's it at? Give it to me," and then creating proposals.
A lot of this goes to before you even get to the point of feeding in the data. It goes to the point that firms really need to be paying attention to how they are already organizing and maintaining the information that they have within the firm. Did you find going in that Power had a good leg to stand on starting the process, that your data organization, the way that you handled all the materials that you have digital, was pretty good? I mean, that you were able to prime the pump with this database, because I imagine there are a lot of firms out there that, I mean, we talk about, I talked to the CEO of BST Global at the fall conference, and he asked the question. He's like, how many of the top 100 ENR firms do you think have chief information officers? And I said, less than 20. And he said five. That it's not, it hasn't been a priority to have that position, someone who's commanding and controlling all the data that the firm owns and how it's used. How important, both Nathan and Sean, is that? Like, for firms out there that don't have a good handle on it, how important is it to really get a handle on all that?
So I want to jump in here first to tell you that we do not have a good data strategy here. Uh, so the solution that we came up with was to allow us to see benefit from what we did with the use of unstructured data across multiple places because of the problems that you just said. We don't have the best data governance strategy yet. We're working on it. Um, so we use technology to augment that and to help us get data models and get this data in place to help us. So we used technologies on the Azure stack, Microsoft Azure platform, to help us go scrape SharePoint sites. So if you've got a bunch of documentation in a SharePoint site, just suck it into a model, index it, and you're good to go. If you have a bunch of documents setting in some document management system somewhere, you can create an index from that and store it on the web and then query that index. Um, in the future, as we enhance our system, we will set that up so that we can, on a more timely basis, update that, keep that up to date. Uh, we would prefer to pull all the data from a single source, like a document management system, something like that. But today, we wrote our solution keeping in mind that we were going to be pulling from lots of disparate, unstructured data.
But through using the system, you're able to take an unstructured data pile and actually create organization from it. So it could actually be a solution in itself to actually build the foundation for future data management.
Yeah, we can literally just take, essentially a pile of documents, unstructured PDFs, Word docs, whatever, turn that into a vector index, an index that's, accessible from those back end engines, and then make that available, within a few hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess I'll add, as Sean said, we are working on our data. We have some new positions that have been filled in the last 6 months that are, working towards, getting better data structure and governance. So it's something definitely a need that we've identified and are working on. One thing I'll point out, and Sean can correct me if I'm completely wrong, or we can cut it out. But um, one thing about when you're dealing with specifications,
Mhm.
like on like GPT, they had that learn like everything in the whole world.
Yeah.
But where we want some specific answers around specific problems based on specific knowledge, um, the problem's a little more manageable, right? With the T-line example he gave,
Yeah.
we only want it to reference maybe a handful or half or a dozen, sources to get that information. We don't want it to get all the bad information or all the
Mhm.
old information. We want it to get just specific information. So having and so in some cases we can pull, create the right data sets that we want it to query
Mhm.
specific to our solution use cases. And so that makes it a little less daunting to have all your data figured out and structured properly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. That's true. Um, we have various sources of information across our network, and we've always had various sources of information. But our users know where that's at. That's their pile of data. So on the technology side, we have to assume that that's good data. That's good. That's data that they're using today to do their work. So that's their data. It's vetted, and then we create a data model, which is a data index. Really is the proper term. We create an index of their data for their use and the use of the system. So it's theirs. They're comfortable with it, and they query it based on their own natural language query.
Got it. Huh. That's it's interesting because we're thinking about this in our own organization. How can we use AI to assist in the same way? We've been around for a while. We got a lot of information that's spread across multiple databases. It's not completely structured. We're in the same position you are, and I think most firms are of creating a standard and practice for data management. And it's interesting with your use case of using that to create the foundation for an organizational structure where we can start working on stuff, and also making sure that you do it in such a way where to Nathan's point, I mean, if you're looking at one subset of rules, that you kind of curate the stuff that's being dumped into the system, so you're not looking at the entire universe, you're just looking at that one specific rule section, right? And you're able to get the answer from that limited information. Um, looking at this, I mean, where do you see this going? I mean, how do you see the Bucky developing over time? And also from just the firm positioning, as this product grows over time, how do you think the firm is going to evolve in I guess just who's brought on? I mean, more software developers? Is there going to be more people who are their background is in coding and not a professional engineer? I mean, how do you think this is going to impact power moving forward?
I, Interestingly enough, I had a conversation with some of our beta users this morning in preparation for
Mhm.
our discussion this morning. And what I found interesting was that the power users who are probably seeing the most benefit
Mhm.
on the proposal writing
Yeah.
process actually said that that's really not what they're using it for right now. Even though that's helpful to them,
Mhm.
what they're starting to see and starting to use it for is business development purposes,
Hmm.
where they can take if they get information from a client and they want to write uh, you know they want to write a good opportunity statement to win the work from that client. They're uploading information about that client
Mhm.
to see what their needs are and that kind of thing. And then they're doing analysis using this tool to better craft and target the information that they're doing. So it's sort of a proposal, but it's more of targeting their clients to meet their needs. And they're really seeing value there.
That's really
And
interesting.
go ahead.
No, more of a prospecting tool, more of a, instead of just something more general, blanket kind of opportunity statement, personalizing it to the client, their challenges based off of what you're able to pull from all those documents.
Yeah, and what's cool is the way that we've built this system. We actually have what's a memory system. So as a user is chatting with the bot, you have a conversation similar to what you would have in ChatGPT. But on our side, we're capturing the information that we pull from sources along with the questions and answers that are coming, and we're building kind of a semantic memory set. And that set follows that conversation. And essentially what happens is the bot grows smarter over time. So the more you use it and the more you feed it, the more accurate and reliable it becomes. So when our users were first using it, they're kind of pretty wary about what it was doing. But conversations this morning, they were like, I use it every day, and I'm very comfortable with it. I trust what it says. I'm still testing it. I'm still checking it because it's a bot and it can get weird sometimes. But they're using it every day to great effect. Um, Now, as to how we continue growing it, I do feel like this is a hard IT thing. So we're going to be bringing in software development help and data modeling and AI help. So we actually have a couple of positions that we've opened up, one for a data scientist type person and one for a software development person that's going to take this beta version of Bucky and move it to production for us and then scale it up so that it can be used across the organization. Um, so it's going to require a different skill set. These are not electrical engineers or civil engineers, mechanical engineers. These are IT folk that we're bringing in for a very specific purpose.
To your point, it's hard IT. It's specialized IT. It is data science and it is AI, which is great for anybody out there listening who's not an engineer yet or thinking about going into engineering. I'm not going to dissuade you from going into engineering, but if you're moving more towards the software side of the house, a good example that you don't have to go into the Silicon Valley companies or the companies that first come to mind when you're thinking about this stuff, because engineering is going to need those talents to implement this effectively within the firm. So the engineering industry is a good place for you because that kind of specialized talent is going to be required. Nobody's ever going to. You're always going to have a PE stamp a document. You're always, because that deals with things beyond that's safety, that's human life safety, and everything going in with that. But there's a lot that can help get that PE to sign that document, and that's where that technology can come in.
Yeah, where we see it kind of going, as we work towards this, platform we can, deploy for the whole company is really to help people get information quicker, faster, in all sorts of information, from the engineering, design information Sean talked about to questions about benefits or HR types of things. Right? There's um, we have an intranet, and there's a bunch of information in there, but it's hard to get to. And this tool, we believe, will really be able to make a big difference for us in just letting people get that information quicker. So instead of taking 5 minutes, 10 minutes to find something, it's you type it into Bucky and off you go.
Yeah, that's actually a use case we explored, and I forgot about it until you just brought it up because it was so easy to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
What we did was we essentially took the employee handbook and loaded it up, and then now it's a globally accessible handbook to all of the bots in our system, and any user in the system can just ask an HR question. It knows and understands the handbook, and it just provides the answer. And the way we've architected this is that not only can we do that from our website, from the Bucky webpage, but we can expose that in like a Teams chat bot. So,
Really?
You just have a bot in Teams, say, QA, and then you ask the QA bot and you just get the answer. So we've kind of thought of exposing this not just as a web page, but the way we've architected it, we've built it so that it can be accessed from multiple front ends.
Yeah.
So whatever consumer we want, you can consume the back end, and the back end's kind of the brain.
There's going to be a point in time, 10 years or sooner down the line, where somebody's just going to go, hey, Bucky, and ask a question, and it'll just answer it right for you. It's going to be individual power engineer Siri kind of thing, right? So that,
It's going to be next year.
yeah,
I'm gonna have it done next year.
really, you're going to
Yeah.
have it so it's going to be voice active. That's something. That's something.
Yeah.
And that's the
I
goal, right?
Yeah,
That's
it's already voice activated. I mean, I can go to
okay.
the website right now and click my little icon and using the infrastructure we have. I don't have this feature turned on, but
Yeah,
I have the capability of pointing it at Azure speech recognition. And you can talk to it right now, ask it a question, and it's going to give you an answer.
yeah,
It's already there.
yeah. It's amazing how quickly it's developed. I mean, all the technologies to implement it and facilitate this, it seems like it's all kind of been modernizing to a point where it's all coming together at once and it's all working.
That
It's
that that is a very true statement. All of these bits and pieces have been out there for some
yeah,
time. And then really, the innovation here is not the technology. We didn't think up some brand new technology. What we come to realize really quickly is that we have all these tools and these materials in our, we got materials in our shed and tools in our tool bag.
mhm,
Let's just put them together.
yeah.
And we've put them together in a way that has allowed us to really move quickly. And I think we'll move even quicker, once we pull ourselves up into the production level infrastructure that we need. I think we'll scream ahead pretty fast
And then
in the
every
coming years.
single time it's used, it just gets stronger and smarter. So
Right.
it's as long as you're using it, it gets more effective. That's really something. Um, Nathan, I mean, what do you think? I mean, where do you see this 10, 15 years down the line?
I mean, we've talked about
Yeah.
what's next for it, right? You got
Hmm.
the language side of it. We obviously, as an engineering firm, we're creating lots of drawings,
Yeah.
and that's where we're headed. Is to
Yeah.
see, is there a way to? I mean, we create thousands of designs
Hmm.
a year, and we've been doing that for 40 plus years. Is
Yeah.
there a way to use that information, right? To do something more now that we have the ability to process it in this near real time fashion. So
And
I think
you
there's a lot of
mentioned that.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last conversation we kind of ended that with moving over to drawing, and I really think there's an opportunity for that. I just look at what Adobe is doing on its graphics programming and the amount of now AI assisted fill background creation. Um, in no way is it close to technical drawings that you need to do for engineering, but I'm still impressed with what you can ask it to do, and it can get you to a point where it gives you at least a framework to work off of. I can only
Mhm.
imagine that if you put in a historical backlog of designs, that the software will be able to assist a designer in manipulating drawings very quickly.
Yep. But I've actually got a proof of concept of that as well. So what we did, in our research, we obviously we've learned, through Microsoft's GitHub Copilot and all that kind of thing, that these large language models are actually really good at writing code.
Hmm.
Um, and all of the CAD tools that we use across the utility industry, they all support a software development, framework
Hmm.
that you can feed code and create stuff in the drawing.
Hmm.
So we kind of took it and said, well, can I have the back end write code that I then execute against a drawing to create graphics in the drawing? And I took a day, put some code together, called that, created a client in my CAD tool, and said, I want to draw two boxes, as foundations with some rectangles representing a pole, some rectangles representing cross members, and connect the two with some arcs. And I typed it just like that.
Hmm.
And then what comes back is code in, a language that the drawing tool understands. You execute that code, and then bam, you've got two foundations with two poles, cross members, and connecting wires.
That's amazing.
Now that was really easy to do, but there's a lot of QA and a lot of stuff that we need, and we need to take our drawings and kind of extract the guts of the drawings and train a machine learning model to understand what a drawing is.
Yeah.
Uh, which is still relatively easy because our drawings are really just object databases.
Mm-hmm.
So if you peel back the curtains on an AutoCAD drawing or a MicroStation drawing, it's just a database of dots and curves
Mm-hmm.
and lines that connect them. And if we extract that information and build a machine learning model that says, these lines with these dots represents a switch,
Yeah.
or these lines represent a breaker, then we can theorize that given enough information, we can start drawing this material. So I know we can do it, but this is where our data scientist comes in, because I don't have the math skills and the data, stuff to do it, but somebody else will. And when we do, we're going to be off to the races.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, the amount of time savings, the amount of, because speed kills going to market, making sure you can deliver on time. I mean, what this is going to do, the project delivery and just the nature of delivering on it's amazing what this has the potential to do for a firm, and not just an overhead, but then also in just speeding delivery, creating more times for engineers to be doing their work. It truly is something else. And honestly, talking to you guys, hey, listen, I'll throw it open. If there are other firms out there who are doing similar stuff, let me know. But you guys seem to be really ahead of the curve. Having your own tool that is this far in advancement, it's really, really impressive. And congratulations on it, because what we hear is a lot of firms that are talking about, okay, we're trying to figure out how we're going to do it. We're going to start with marketing. We're going to start with maybe proposals. We're going to limit the amount of data that goes in. And I know the way that you're going about implementing this is it seems to be very successful in learning new ways of using the technology.
Right. Yeah, I think what's been very beneficial for us is, Power Engineers is a Microsoft shop, so we have access to the Microsoft Azure platform, and we trust Azure, as much as you can. And Microsoft, literally put it in writing, stating that your data is your data. We're not going to use it. We're not going to do anything with it, and we're not going to capture your data to train models or do anything with it. So, if we take them at face value and say, okay, you said what you said, so we're gonna use your platform, the amount of tooling and the amount of platform as a service offerings that Azure gives us allows us to really run forward. It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot of learning involved. But if you really just, buckle in and learn it, you'll very quickly, I believe, come to a proper infrastructure and a proper architecture to perform this work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we also, on the more corporate side, we do have a leadership who does value technology. They're looking for ways to implement it and use it and help our firm get better with it. And so, we do have a very supportive leadership in those areas.
Yeah.
And, everything has to get done within budgets and, have checks and balances. But, when it comes down to it, we're very, very much want to see how we can use technology to provide better services to our customers and make sure that we're bringing the best value to the table. So it's great to have that kind of support.
Man, it is something else. I really appreciate you guys going into detail on this stuff, because I think it helps our audience kind of think about this. And there were a lot of questions that percolated up around fall conference about the next step with AI, and with our technology committee that we just stood up, these are the things that we're looking at as well, and trying to stay ahead of the curve as much as humanly possible. So we really appreciate your insights, and want to continue this conversation, especially on how Bucky is developing and just whatever other initiatives you guys are doing over at Power. So I appreciate you guys taking the time today to spend some time on it, Sean and Nathan. Anything else you guys want to add before we kind of wrap up?
I think there is one caveat to
Yeah.
this that I think we need to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, AI and the use of these semantic language kernels and all that, they require a different way of thinking. You cannot tackle this like a traditional software project where you create a bunch of requirements up front and try to tackle that. It's not really the same. It's the stuff is evolving so quickly that you're always trying to adapt and stay on top of the new changes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at this from your traditional software design waterfall perspective, by the time you get your requirements written to start your work, you're going to be, a year behind.
Yeah.
So you really have to think different and be really agile in this thing, and not just from the creation of it, but the use of it. Because the use of it, you're asking a system to think like a person,
Yeah.
and systems don't typically think like people. So, at best, what we're seeing with this is that, if you ask a really pointed question, it's going to give you a really good answer. If you ask it to think, in a bit of detail, you're going to get a toddler answer
Yeah.
because it's still in its infancy, right? So you have to kind of be willing to accept that sometimes you're going to get some weird stuff back, and you have to be willing to train it and teach it just like a toddler. But we've had our users very willing to do that, so we've seen some pretty good success.
That's a great place. I think that's a stop off point. I think that's a really good lesson for our listeners to take. So I think that's an important caveat to keep in mind. Nathan, anything else to add on your end?
No, I don't think I have anything else. It's been great talking with you again, and
Yeah.
um,
Look forward to the next conversation because
Yeah.
it's just gonna evolve over time. I mean, I think that going from words and then the visuals to drawings to voice activation. I mean, the whole idea it's getting to that point where a firm could have its own bespoke AI system that allows you to ask everything from HR questions to specifications on an electrical engineering drawing. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, we're excited to see that next step come around.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, well, until the next time, this has been Engineering Influence, a podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies, and we will see you next time.